Open Jaw is at the Virtuoso on Tour event at the Royal York in downtown Toronto. And Karen, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. Before we get into some of the research and some of the trends, the juicy stuff that you have been uncovering, as you always do, is to delve into what people are looking for, how they're traveling, what their expectations are. I want to just address, to me, Virtuoso is this big shiny brand, right? It's aspirational, it's exciting. And the world of travel at the moment is not that, in the sense that world events are affecting the industry, they're affecting advisors. When I talk to people, there's a sort of a sense of, discomfort, heaviness, if you will. They talk about their clients, hesitating to make decisions. I have no doubt that between yourself and all your partners at Virtuoso, with Matthew Upchurch, whoever else at your meetings, this must be part of the conversations you guys have. How do you square it? What perspective do you have on that?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's very topical, and we're in Toronto this week. We were in Vancouver for Virtuoso on Tour in Vancouver last week, and I would say that there is still a lot of enthusiasm for travel. I'd say one of the benefits of the past experience of the last 5 years coming out of the pandemic that we've seen is that travelers are more resilient than they've ever been. Okay. And there really does seem to be a sense of you cannot put off this travel that you want to do because there's always going to be something. Right. And if you talk to the travel advisors here, they will tell you that perhaps where people are traveling to or the booking window is perhaps changing for sure. We've heard feedback about people who were perhaps booked with some of the Middle Eastern carriers who have pivoted. Pivoted is a word that I'm hearing again. It was a
is that right?
It was a big word during the pandemic.
Interesting.
You're hearing more about this pivoting. Perhaps there was a destination they were traveling to that for one reason or another, they would feel more comfortable either changing the way in which they're getting to the destination or the destination itself. Doesn't mean they won't travel to that destination. They might just pick something else off their list to do first and then maybe save it for the next time. So
Now, as your client base is affluent travelers, are they a little less susceptible to the fluctuations in airfares and all the pricing increasing? Even cruises are now apparently going to start charging fuel surcharges. So is that an issue within this market? Less so, more?
Potentially. I mean, we hear both. I mean, it really depends on the traveler. I think at the end of the day, whether you're an affluent traveler or whether you're an aspirational traveler, value and your perception of value is still going to drive your decisions. And so perhaps people, like I heard anecdotally last week, one of the travel advisors saying that somebody who always traveled business class, now, they look at a price point that is significantly different to what they're accustomed to, and maybe they're making a different choice about either which class of travel they're going with or which route or which timing. So I do think that ultimately all of these changes come back to the individual traveler, whether they're affluent or not, and their perception of value and what is a good investment of not just their money, but their one non-renewable resource, which is their time.
Non-renewable resource time. Oh my God, that couldn't have said it better. It is so true, especially as you get older, you realize the value of time. And you're right. If you don't do it today, when are you going to do it?
Yeah, that's right.
Now, Karen, your background is in retail, which I find really interesting because it must play a role in how you approach your job here, because we've not spoken before. This is a great opportunity to get to know you. How does that influence how you run Virtuoso Canada?
I think it's an integral part of how I feel about travel and the travel industry at large. I mean, we talked briefly about the fact that my father worked for the airlines. I grew up in the travel industry, and when he retired, he started his own travel agency, and I became a travel advisor, not necessarily initially by intention, but to help and support the family business. I believe once you have been a travel advisor, you see the world differently. And I don't believe anybody works harder than a frontline travel advisor. You're expected to be an expert on every hotel and every destination and every airline. And I do passionately believe that the world should travel. The world is a better place when people travel, and everybody's travel experience is improved by working with an experienced professional travel advisor.
Couldn't agree with you more. I have huge respect for travel advisors. I think what they do is really phenomenal, the work they put into it, the knowledge base that they have to have, and particularly, of course, if you're talking about affluent travelers whose expectations are very, very high. Now, in some of the research that you've done, let's talk about that, the trends that you're seeing. One of the things that came through in the press briefing just now is the role that sustainability is playing in travel decisions. And I find that a bit surprising because I'll tell you, when we run articles about sustainability, advisors are not flocking to those articles. I see the traffic. So I always think, is that really a topic that is a burning sort of decision-making factor in their clientele or not? So tell us a little bit more about what you're seeing.
Yeah, and I think it came out in the panel today and the presentation we did this morning where we talked about the affluent traveler, and we say, you know, personalization is such an important component of that. As you start to talk about sustainability, people's individual perception, interest, desire for sustainability is also very personal, and whether that's the way they approach other choices in their life around concerns for the environment, or whether it's specifically choosing a destination or how they visit a destination because of their personal values and beliefs, it is as different as the individuals traveling, and even as we saw today was those three different travel advisors. You know, one has a very strong personal belief and commitment to sustainability. She wants it to be a part of her business. She wants it to be a principle of how she conducts her business. She wants to attract a clientele for whom that is also an important value, and so she's directing her business that way. The other two, less so. It's important to them, and they want to be informed, and they want to add value to their clientele's experience, but they're not necessarily driving it in quite the same way. And I think we saw a great snapshot today of what I see more broadly.
You know, I had this idea about a year ago where I thought, maybe we could change the world if we enlist travel advisors to really play a role in directing people and their travel in terms of bringing down borders, understanding cultures, sustainability, all these things that mean so much today in particular. We need that. We need that hope, I think. But truly, how much can an advisor influence someone's decision making? People want what they want. Talk to me about that.
So I think it starts with the discovery call, which the travel advisors talked about today. It's that initial consultation where the very best travel advisors will sit down with a client and they will ask them a series of questions. And the purpose of that process is twofold. One, you're building a relationship. And so just by the questions that you ask and the way that you engage, you are finding out what is important to that traveler. And so by understanding what's important to them, you as the travel advisor will be able to support their values, their intentions. You'll be able to present something that shows that you've really heard what they're looking for and that you will be able to facilitate their travel aspiration. And so to your question of how much can you influence, I think the role is really to listen and to understand and to curate your knowledge and their desire and co-create, as we talked about today, an outcome that not just meets but exceeds their expectations. And then once you do that, you build a level of trust where you will have that traveler come to you and say, thank you, had a great experience. I'm thinking about this, what do you think? And then once you've built that base of trust, that's where the influence to the benefit of the client really starts to come into play.
Now, all three advisors in the panel mentioned the content and the information that Virtuoso provides that helps them curate those experiences. I'm not familiar with all of that. I mean, I have my cursory awareness of what Virtuoso does, but I think it's so much deeper than what I know. Talk to us about that.
Okay, well, I mean, our purpose is to bring together professional travel advisors and carefully curated preferred partners, and to bring those two elements together to meet and exceed travelers' expectations. So when Virtuoso chooses to work with a partner and they become a preferred partner, part of that is also determining what is and when I say value, it's like, what is the enhancement to the experience that partnership, so Virtuoso together with the preferred partner, can deliver through the travel advisor to the traveler. So for instance, the hotel program, Virtuoso's hotel program is really quite renowned, and that means that every time a Virtuoso travel advisor is working with a client and booking with a Virtuoso preferred hotel property, there is an enhanced experience. It might be a credit of some sort. It might be an automatic room upgrade. It might be early or late checkout. It could be any number of things. And so it really is about working together with our partners to bring an elevated experience to the Virtuoso traveler.
Talk to us a little bit about how you see your role here at Virtuoso Canada. Your research goes out and asks advisors what they see in the marketplace. Do you also ask them what they need from Virtuoso, or is it more that you and your committees, because you have obviously very high-end advisors on the various committees, then define the needs and send that information back down to the advisor members?
Great question. So for my role as the general manager for Virtuoso in Canada, I really see my role overseeing the team that we have here. I mean, we're a matrix organization, so our team reports both up into their vertical as well as into the regional, so globally consistent but regionally relevant. And so it's really about delivering the value that Virtuoso has to offer to our members and to our partners and to our travelers, and making that specific to Canada. And that a big part of that is talking to our Canadian members, finding out about their business, finding out about their needs. We do that in numerous ways. As you said, we do that through the research that we conduct with them. We also do it through the committees. We have representatives from our membership who sit on these global committees, and we have very open discussions about what are you seeing, what is coming up, how can we support, what does the evolution of that particular situation or challenge or opportunity look like? How do we work together to make the most of that?
When you mention Virtuoso to friends and family, do they know what it is? Does it resonate amongst consumers? I'm curious.
It's a great question. It depends. Yeah. It depends. I mean, I grew up in the travel industry in Australia. My family had a Virtuoso
I hear the accent slip through once in a while,
agency. So amongst my friends and family, they have a very clear understanding of what that is. There's a real opportunity to build brand awareness here in Canada. I believe that there is a cohort of affluent travelers for whom the brand Virtuoso definitely resonates. Most of our members would say that the value of the brand is a big reason for them joining the Virtuoso network. But if you look to other regions, particularly in the US, where Virtuoso has been an entity for 40 years, we have some ways to go in Canada.
Right, interesting. Before I let you go, any message that you'd like to share with the advisors who are listening to us?
Well, I mean, I'm a supporter. Obviously, I represent Virtuoso, and I think I hope that all travel advisors aspire to be a virtuoso travel advisor, but I am ultimately an advocate for all travel advisors everywhere. And one of the things I love about this industry is, we are here at a Virtuoso event. You can be at other industry events and you see this great collaboration between travel advisors and sharing peer-to-peer of knowledge and experience, and just this real belief that by encouraging people to work with a travel advisor, those travelers will have a great experience. They will tell others about their great travel experience. They will encourage others to book with a travel advisor, and that will make everybody's travel better at the end of the day.
No question, no question. And I hear that a lot from advisors who are growing their own little businesses. They're becoming like an independent agent, suddenly becoming a host agent.
Yeah.
There's so much, it's so busy, there's so much activity going on that one can only hope that the future is bright and that we're attracting young people, that we're growing the market, and that more and more consumers will travel better by using an advisor. Thank you so much for your time, Karen.
Thank you. Thanks, Nina.